Okay, always keep your mic on. We are in Sukkah Daf Testament base. We're in the fourth line down. Rabbi Shimon Karsano. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Achor. Rabbi Shimon Karsano named Rabbi Achor said, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Shloshon Mudav Rech, they all said the same thing. Rabbi Meir de L'chaim, Rabbi Meir is now, what this thing they said is that walls which are subject to movement are not stable and therefore not valid walls. Rabbi Meir de L'chaim, Rabbi Meir is talking about L'chaim, and the case there, the Tniyah, we learned that if you use an animal as a wall, so Matami should go Rabbanan hold it's Matami lets you put in front of a grave, and you're using it as a wall in front of a grave, so it becomes Tari because it is the wall of the grave, and that's Mekabel Tumah, even though it's a live animal. Even though live animals generally are not Matami, in this usage it does. And Meir says it's Tar because since it can move away at any time, so therefore it's not considered to be a true wall, and that's why it retains its Tara. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi da Aholos. Rabbi Yossi Amar Habaisha B'Shvina Enim Aviyas Atuma. This, of course, is true about an airplane as well. Any house which is moving, in other words, it's not stationary, is not considered to be a house, and therefore, if you have a boat, even the house on the boat is not considered to be an OL that spreads tumah underneath its roof. In other words, despite the fact that it looks like an OL, as it's moving, it's not an OL. And the same thing would be true of an airplane, of course, according to Rabbi Yosef. We don't pass like him. According to him, that any OL Zoruk, any OL which is moving, doesn't have the status of an OL. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the tiny mice of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, a similar idea because it was mice of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva. Shuboim B'Sfina, they were coming on a boat. V'aslo Rabbi Akiva Sukkah B'Rosh Sfina. Rabbi Akiva made himself a boat at the top of the ship. Uvas Ruach Frichosa, and the wind came and tore it down or blew it away. Amar Elazar ben Azariah, Elazar ben Azariah said, Akiva, Eichon Sukkoscha, Sukkoscha. Akiva, where'd your sukkah go? So obviously, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah held that that's not a valid sukkah. Now, Nasu Be'ilon, this is going back to actually Masechta Eruvin, by an Eruv Tchumen. We had this sugya. The sugya to the Mishnah is duplicated here. Nasu Be'ilon Ma'al Mesar Tvachim, you put your Eruv more than 10 Tvachim up in a tree, ain't no Eruv, it's not a valid Eruv. Matam Mesar Tvachim, if you put it below 10 Tvachim, Eruv, it is about Eruv. However, also you're not allowed to move it because obviously to move it we require using the tree. It's below 3, talking from the ground, then mutter, then it's like it's on the ground. Even though it's on the tree, it's like it's on the ground, therefore it's okay. The kasha, we have difficult. If it's Eruv, it's about Eruv. Yeah, mutter, Tato should be allowed to move it. The muscle Tato, and if he's not allowed to move it, Lo Yeruv, it shouldn't be about Eruv because he doesn't have access to it. Says the Gemara, not using a tree is an Issa D'Rabbanan. The one goes on Isuri D'Rabbanan, Bein HaShmashos, it's twilight time. So Roi Hu Lavar L'Shvus, at twilight he can transgress Issa D'Rabbanan, the lochal, and eat from the Eruv Tchumen, and therefore that's why it acquires during the Shvisa there on the tree. Even if it's about 10 Tvachim, but should still be permissible because the tree is not a Rishus HaYachid, is it? Says Mari, yes it is. And Rabbi Shem Shmuel said, the loaf of bread he had, there was 4 by 4 Tvachim, which is not necessarily the loaf of bread. It means that there's an area of 4 by 4 Tvachim on the tree, which makes it Rishus HaYachid, and that's why it's not a valid Eruv, because in order to get at that, he would have to transgress an Issa D'Oraisa of not climbing up a tree. That's an Issa D'Rabbanan. Whereas the Issa of taking from Rishus HaYachid, which is the top of the tree, down to Rishus HaRabbi, which is on the ground, in order to make Shvisa, and that's no good. Now, of course, that leaves you an obvious out. Because in order to get yourself in the situation, you have to be kind of a klutz. Our mother said, it's the only problem is if Rishus HaRabbi surrounds you on all sides, and you idiot, You say, I want my shvisa to be underneath, on the ground. Because if you made your shvisa on the tree, right, so get it, so it's the Rabbanah to get up on the tree. So if you said you wanted your resting place to be on the ground, while your Erev was up in the tree, this is the right to get out, to take something down from the tree on the ground, so therefore the Erev is not a valid Erev. But had you said, let my Erev be up in the tree, I want my Shvitz to be up in the tree, so when this is the Rabbanah to go up a tree, and this is the Rabbanah you could do during twilight, so therefore it would have been a valid Erev. So you weren't thinking right. Says, well, further, turn around to Tani, we learned, Nosuba Kalkola, if you put it into a basket, Utloyo Ba'ilon, and you hung the basket from the tree. Mr. Zuger, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11 lines to the bottom.
Well, if there's a line that easier,
right.
Shots.
Right, I just thought about that. Even with the line of a beginning shots, right, have that margin. Tani, Nosta B'Kalkola, if you put your Erev in a basket, Utloyo Ba'ilon, and you hung it on a tree, so now here the carbon air changes the girsa. It's interesting. You change the girsa both here and Arabin identically, and it's the same wrong girsa both here and Arabin and carbon air. We might as well use them. So here he says, if you put it in a basket and put it up in a tree, it should be afilu. Even if it's l'mala me'asar tvachim, even if it's above 10 tvachim, instead of being anywhere, it should be eruva eruv. It is a valid eruv, and skipping the next 5 words because he takes them out. Vasul etatlo. It's forbidden to carry it. Lamata now here then lamata, and it should be me'asara tvachim. If it's below 10 tvachim, mutter. Then it's permissible even to carry it. The kash we have difficult. When this above 10 tefachim business, if it's a valid erev, then you should be able to carry it. And if it starts to carry it, it shouldn't be a valid erev. So how do you reconcile the two things? He said, he said the reason why it's suitable is because you could turn the basket upside down and cancel its Rishus HaYachid status. Let's talk about where the basket itself is a basket which stretches above 10 tvachim. Above 10 tvachim. It has the basket is 4 by 4 and it stretches above 10 tvachim. If you turned it on its side, so it would no longer stretch above 10 tvachim. And then it itself loses Rishus HaRabim status. And that holds the Rishus HaYachid status. And that holds the Gemara is not carried from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. It's carried from Rishus HaYachid, which means to take something from in a basket, which is Rishus HaYachid, to the ground, which is Rishus HaRabim. But if you turn the basket over so it no longer constitutes the Rishus HaYachid, that's not technically prohibited because of Hotzah. Okay? That's what the Gemara is saying here. So, Amar Yosef said, Hadamra, this teaches us another related concept. Sapshul Shunas B'Rishus HaRabim, if you have a bench which is Rishus HaRabim, Gavah Sora, let's say it's on its side. So it says volume high, bracha rabban 4 by 4 volume wide. Became a sharoi lohavcho. If you have an eruv tchumin atap, it's also good because you can turn on its side and levato should be Rishus HaYachid, and you can cancel the Rishus HaYachid in it. So therefore, it's considered to be a valid place for an eruv. Hodar Maros teaches us sheruvo eruv in both these cases where you are able to access the top of the tree. That eruvo eruv umuta tatlo. Now, I should say this actually. That there's a case in these cases where the eruv is above 10 tefachim. So then, even though you can turn the basket on its side and count Rishus HaYachid, so nevertheless, it's not permitted to do so. But in the case it's below 10 tefachim, so you don't have to cancel the Rishus HaYachid by turning the basket on its side in order to get it in. So then in that case it's even mutter, it's mutter to make that maneuver even l'chatchila. Okay? Now this is because it's a basket. It's not the tree. You don't have to go up on the tree to get it, nor do you have to use the tree to get it, which leads us into the next sugya. Okay? It's a basket hanging from the tree, not the tree itself. Okay, Talmud, we learned by Sukkah, by us. Shtein biyado b'dei if 2 walls were made by a human being, and one wall was a wall of the tree, we're talking about by your sukkah. Or stein below, what two walls of the wall of the tree, back to the other, one was artificial. Kshera, the sukkah is kosher. But only will be yotiv, however, you can't use sukkah and yotiv, because the walls are part of the tree, and you cannot use trees on yotiv. So this is a contradiction. Here you say that sukkah is kshera, kosher, but you're not allowed to use it on yotiv. Here, if you have a basket hanging from the tree, and the basket is below 10 tefachim, the Erev is valid Erev, but Mutzah Tatzim will have to take his food out of the basket. How do we reconcile two positions? So Rabbi Yehuda said, Kamil Malon, it depends where the sukkah is. Or actually, here the sukkah is on top of the tree. It's like a tree house. That's why you have to use the tree to get to. That's why it's not permissible. Kan, it should be not milamata and minatzad. That's what the Yerushalmi says in Erevin. But the basket's on the side. So a tree you're not allowed to use, but it's seated there, Elon. The side of a tree you're allowed to use. Now we paskin actually you're not supposed to use the side of the tree. Only seated studying. But this is what the Yerushalmi holds here, right? And they are, you can learn one from the other and vice versa. Our case, so it's in that case, that our case, of course, means not our case in Sukkah, but the case in Erevin. That if the Erev is on the side of the tree, and it's not part and parcel of the tree itself, so they were using the Tzidei Elon, it's Sheiruva, Erev, the Erev is about Erev out, Erev Mutzah Tatzon, you're allowed to carry it. In our case here in Sukkah, in that case in Erevin, if you are not using the actual wall as the actual tree as the wall, but rather you have two pegs coming out of the tree, and you put tzchach on top of them. So now you're using the tzidei ilon, right? So there, because you put pegs into the side of the tree, so she shared that sukkah is okay. And you're allowed to use it on Yontif. Said, the truth is, they're both here and they're minatzadi. They're using the side of the tree. That's the case why by Sukkah Zedosser and by Erev it's Mutter. Maikadun. How does it come out? Kahid, Rabbi Yaakov Barachim, Shem Rabbi Elazar, like Rabbi Yaakov, it's named Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. It's like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tani we learned, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Mutli Shtamish al Tzidei Behema B'Shabbos. He said it's permissible. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds you're allowed to use the sides of an animal on Shabbos. Hitzidei Behema, Hitzidei Ilan. Just like you're allowed to use the sides of an animal, you're also allowed to use the sides of a tree. But we pass it not like that. Tzidei Ilan are not promoter. Only tzidei study, the side of a side. So that's how you reconcile the contradiction. And that which says it's also is talking about where it's only studying on the side. Say it's mutter, it's where tzidei studying sides of sides. Okay? How is the sukkah ben eilonos? If somebody makes one sukkah among the trees, kshera. Now that means the trees could be the walls of the sukkah. It's kosher. Shluchei mitzvah, people who are agents of mitzvah, they're going on the way to or coming from doing a mitzvah. Termin sukkah, they're exempt from sukkah. The choli, a sick person, misham shem, and the people who serve the sick people, termin sukkah, they're exempt from sukkah. Furthermore, if ochli v'shosi harachut to sukkah, one is allowed to snack outside the sukkah, both eating and drinking.
Even mazonos?
What? Even in mazonos, yeah. We're more machmir in mazonos, but Bisman said, but yeah, even in mazonos, theoretically allowed to. Rav Chuna was going, I don't know if it's going in the middle of the month, Sukkot time, I guess he was preparing for after Sukkot. He was going to Eitav Lamina to be involved in the reckoning of the Molad of Cheshvan, when they would make Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. Miyasi, when he came, Tzacha go Israel, he became thirsty in the middle of the street. However, he would not accept to taste anything until he went to the Sukkah to Rabbi Yochanan, Safra, the Gufta of Rabbi Yochanan, the Sofer of the city of Gufa. So he was machmir, right? No snacking, even in the street. An
exhortation to a Talmud Chacham not to eat or drink publicly in the street of that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. You know, what? I'm not sure exactly. I was thinking about that. The Chora here Anyways, shouldn't eat or drink because it's in a public thoroughfare. Somehow the Gemara knew, however, that was more because of sukkah. Maybe the thirstiness was such that would have allowed him. But you're right; it's not such a great raya based on that. It's not just true that cholim who have sakana exempt from the mitzvah of sukkah. Now, people cholim sakana, even the cholim who are not that ill, that they're not in danger of their life. Tanner said, there was a case with which I had an eye ache because Rabbi Yossi already permitted me and all my servants to sleep outside the sukkah. So that's also not understandable because eyes are pikuach nefesh, right? So, okay. The Rabbi Baba Zavta Amar, I guess it wasn't such a big eye problem. Rabbi Baba Zavta Amar. All the servants were serving him.
Servants?
Yeah.
I mean, Avadim literally,
No. Any nurse.
Nurse? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Rabbi Baba Zavta Amar Shoshvin, a best man who was in charge of being Mesmeach Chasan Kal, and all the people who are members of the party of the wedding, they're all parting from Sukkah. Tani, we learn Shomrei Ear, people who watch the city, the city watchmen. But if they watch during the day, they're exempt from the sukkah during the day, and the chayav at night. Shomrei Ear Balayla, those who watch the city at night, they're exempt from the sukkah during the night. Chayav b'yom, and they're chayav during the day. Shomrei Ear B'yom Balayla, those who guard the city both day and night, they're exempt from sukkah both the day and the night. That's why people watch the city from bandits. That when they're off duty, they have to use the sukkah because they're always in public view. But the people who are watching money, who do it far more stealthily, right, and they also have to constantly be on the guard. Also, some Kashomri Ganas Bradation, like the people who sit and watch a garden and an orchard. If they would sit constantly in the sukkah, then they obviously would be off their guard when people came to take stuff. So therefore, in that case, they're exempt from sukkah day and night because they have to constantly be on their guard as long as they're on duty, whether it's guard, as long as they're shomrim, whether it's nighttime or daytime, whether they're on duty or not on duty, they're exempt from sukkah because they constantly have to be aware of what the whereabouts of their stuff safeguarded is, etc. Okay? Avduma Milcha, Avduma the salt seller, have a damach coming chanusin. Instead of going to the sukkah to sleep, he would sleep in front of his store. Rav Chia Bar Bar passed by. Amalei said, "Ezel damach ometulaltach." For you, you're not so concerned. In other words, for the people who are the public watchman, so then they're allowed to be exempt from the sukkah. You, for your private personal property, you guys in the sukkah. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to say this is the sukkah, right? Everybody's concerned with their personal property. Raimon Shushvini Rabbi Yaakov Bar Plite. Raimon was the land of Rabbi Yaakov Bar Plite. Also showed Rabbi Yossi. He asked Rabbi Yossi, what's the status? Does he have to go sleep in the sukkah? Armalei said, yes, you must sleep in the sukkah. Hazel Damik Mitalautoch. You have to go sleep in the I think I translated wrong. Raimon Abba Shoshvini was the best man to Rabbi Yaakov. I don't know if I said that. Also showed Rabbi Yossi, they came and asked Rabbi Yossi on Malay, so he said, Ezel Damach Go Matalau to his Machmanin, because he said before best men, members of the wedding party, are exempt from sukkah, but he said, no, you have to go sleep in your sukkah. Ma'aser Shalach Rabbi Loi to Rabbi Lezer ben Lud. Rabbi Loi once went to Rabbi Lezer and Lud on Yontif. Amar Lei, so Rabbi Lezer said, Afat Mishremer Regel, are you keeping Yontif properly? Because Rabbi Lezer says one can't leave home during Yontif. Must be home with one's wife all Yontif. What a concept, right? So therefore, since one has to be home with one's wife all Yontif, so therefore you can't leave in the middle. How lo Amru Shein Shifto Shul Tamir Chomilios Meniachas Beisos Subregos Apaver, the proper way Katai B'Chocham resides, leave his house during Yontif, V'oichlo, and just leave and come visit his Rebbe. Ke'adah, similarly, right, interestingly, the parallel here, Rabbi Zia Solik L'Gzura The Rabbi Zir went to the bris milah. Okay, Zor means to cut. Went to the bris milah. The Rabbi Ilah, the lo kiba loving mitema klumi. He would not taste anything because he held he had to eat everything with his wife at home in his sukkah, like Rabbi Elazar said. Now, the truth is, I shot off the gun too fast because Gemara says we don't know why. And the better girsa than the Gemara is in the Korban 8. If you look in Korban 8 in the third line down, he says for 3 words before the end line, Hachikasina, V'lo Yodin, and we don't know why he didn't eat at the bris. If it's because his custom was not to eat anything ad yifnei musaf until after musaf, it sounds like that bris milah happened on Chol Moed, I guess. And they would have it between chakras and musaf. Or because the reason we gave previously, like I said, that's not proper Talmid Chacham. Lios Meniach was based on a regel. Leave his house on Yontif, Volichlo, and go elsewhere for the Yontif, and therefore he wouldn't eat elsewhere.
Maybe he didn't trust Hashkoch.
Maybe he didn't trust Hashkoch. Some reason that reason's not brought down here. I don't know why. Okay, getting back to the Gemara, this goes back to the Mishnah which says that you're allowed to snack outside the sukkah. So, 6 lines before the beginning of the next Mishnah, the reason why you're allowed to snack and not sleep is Amr Elazar are right. Because Achila are right, there's such thing as snacking. Bein Shenis are right, there's no such thing as snacking and sleep. Chevraya Amin, the Chevraya said, another reason, not because the sleep is always considered to be permanent, a person might lose himself and sleep overly much. Rabbi Ilah said, Shekain Adam, a similar idea, Adam Yoshin Kima V'dayo. In other words, he might not just get lost in his sleep. Actually, it's not a similar idea, but he says, might not just get lost in his sleep, but it might be suffice for a little amount of sleep, and that'll be enough for him to rejuvenate himself. What's interesting to opinions? He told somebody else to pick him up, to wake him up. Because he's not going to get sleep too long. The Rebbe Ilah, it's usher because it's not the purpose of this whole thing. Okay.
I thought there is such a concept in halacha of shenas kva.
Right, Rabbi Ilah argues. Rabbi Ilah says all sleep is like a permanent sleep, and that's why you can't sleep. Even a little snack sleep outside sukkah is very inflexible. Ma'aser shevilu Rabbi Yochanan Zakai. So Ma'aser they brought to Rabbi Yochanan Zakai litom es hatavshil to taste a cooked dish on sukkahs obviously. On Gamliel Shteikos on Gamliel they brought 2 dates. Leave Shamayim in a bucket of water. V'Omer they said Haluma Sukkah, take them out to the Sukkah. Kshenasal Rabbi Tzadek Koichol Pachos Mikabetza, and they gave it food a little bit less than a kabetza. Enoughm and Mappa, you wouldn't wash. You take it in a cloth. V'Chutz the Sukkah, you eat it outside the Sukkah. V'Lo Birach Achav, you will not make a bracha afterwards. Having so we wanted to say Meimar, we wanted to say Shlo Birach Achav Shlosh Brachas, he didn't bench. A bracha achas birech, but he must have made an alamichya. Ashkach tani v'lo bracha achas lo shlosh brachas. We found in the Brisa that he didn't make either 1 nor 3 brachas. It's interesting. The Achronim talk about here that could he make a brain of foshos? Says you can't make a main sholish, but brain of foshos perhaps yes. There's actually a question in the Rosh Hashanah and the Bavli. Gilin Hashas quotes him. So the question is whether Yerushalmi almost tells you explicitly that you can't make a bracha. Right, that says not 1 and not 3, but maybe the burning of Foshos, actually tells the opposite. Tells the burning of Foshos can't make a bracha because there's not 1 and not 3. It doesn't entertain the notion of perhaps there's another way you can make the burning of Foshos. Sounds like the Shabbos is precluding even the Abshah burning of Foshos, but not necessarily so. Okay? Tailer Kosher Milav Sholosh Brachos, everything which you pronounce 3 brachos of branching. Only upon our motzi lechmer to say for our motzi. Kosheno me'achor shlosh brachos. Anytime you don't say 3 brachos of benching afterwards, and when upon our motzi lechmer, it's like cake. You don't say a motzi. Isivu. So they ask the question: if that's the case, how you pose the gazais? What about let's the gazais? They don't say al minchi afterwards. So ain't no love shalosh brachos. Mi'ato lo yomer lo b'farav motzi lechem noad. So we shouldn't say motzi beforehand as well. No, it's not true. And even if you're eating something which you're not going to bench because you're not going to eat enough of, you still make a motzi. Says Rabbi Yaakov, meaning this. Rabbi Yaakov said you're right. So that other stuff, not about the proper loaves. The proper loaves you have to wash on regardless. We're talking about anything else is a principle that anything other than proper loaves, which looks like bread, there's a principle of it. Anything which you would bench for, you have to wash. Anything which you wouldn't bench for, you don't have to wash, such as rice bread or cornbread, stuff like that, if there's nothing else mixed in. Okay, Rabbi Lezer, you're required to eat 40 meals in a sukkah. One day, one night. You say there is no limit. Doesn't matter. No limit up, no limit down, except for the first day Yom when you must eat the kazayis of bread in the sukkah, because we're not for chag hamatzos. There's a specific mitzvah for the night of the 15th. Also, somebody did not eat the matzah the first night of Pesach. He can complete his role the last night of Pesach. Tough luck, too late, nothing to do. Well, it says, move on something which is distorted, lo yuchal. Lead, go, and you can't fix the chisaron, and a short car, miluchal imanis, you cannot make up. My time, what's the logic of it? Says 40 meals. Now our connotation, which says here, dwell, for never allowed, it says by the miluim. When Aaron was ensconced as the Kohen, it says there also, Upesach Ol Moed Teshu, the Yom Olayla, so the opening to the camp 7 days. My yeshiva shenem just like later on by the miluim. I mean, the night are part of the day in terms of the responsibility to watch, right? So too, terms of the miluim was 7 days in and out, day and night. Day. My yeshiva shenem also boss alayla coming. I be yeshiva shenem markat. So to buy sukkahs, you have to sit at night the same day, same like the day. Rabbi Yodam Shem Rabbi Shmuel said, Namar Tesvav Pesach. It says Tesvav on the 15th day of Pesach. Namar Tesvav Chag, and it says 15th day by Sukkot. Ma Tesvav. This is the opposing view, the view of the Rabbanan. Ma Tesvav. And it's like the Tesvav Shana Pesach says by Pesach, Laila Rishon Chof, and the only mandatory part is the first night, and not the subsequent nights, right? You don't have to eat matzah any other night than first night of Pesach. V'shar kol man v'shus, all the other dates are optional. After Tesvav Shnei Rabbi Chaga b'Chag, so to the 15th day, which is mentioned on Sukkot, Laila Rishon Chof, the first night is mandatory. V'shar kol man v'shus, and all the other dates are voluntary. Chevraya boy omrim, it says Yimurim, it means omrim. The Chevraya want to ask further. Ma'alhona chikotzu matzah b'taiva. Let's say the vow is complete. Let's say by matzah you're not allowed to eat for a couple of hours before. No, you should be hungry, right? So let's say because she comes to sukkah b'taiva. Let's say now to eat before you go to the sukkah for a couple of hours. So you should enter the sukkah with taiva, right? There's our eat the sukkah. Of course, it's not comparable, but we're trying to compare. Rabbi Zira boy, imal on a chilkasais matzah. If by matzah the shiur is a kazais, because chilkasais dogam the sukkah, so to here the shiur should be kazais in the sukkah as well. And in fact, we paskin like this. Since it's not clear whether it should be or shouldn't be, we paskin it is like this, kazais suffices. Rabbi Yeshua mer kol shiva chayva. Rabbi Yeshua says all 7 days you must sit in the sukkah. Rabbi Yomar pligan. Rabbi said, Rabbi Yeshua argues Rabbi Yochanan Mishnah. Says Ravuna says Amar lo pligan. Madam Rabbi Yochanan, that which says the first night is not b'shernos and item when you decide that's always going to eat in the sukkah. Madam Rabbi Yosha Shlomo Satata, we didn't decide that's all he's going to eat in the sukkah, so therefore it's for next 7 days. He's mandated, he's obligated, if he wants to eat in the sukkah. Rabbi Lezer, Mishalo, so we didn't make a sukkah Erev Yontif. We can put it up on Yontif. Tani Ayas and bread. Not allowed to put up. Ayas and bread. Shouldn't put up in Yontif. Ayabatai Bar Kapor says, no, it's a custom bread leaf man, but regal. Doesn't Bar Kapor says, if your sukkah falls like make on Yontif. So the Bible said it's a machlokas tak. It's machlokas Shina Rabban Rabbi Lezer. But Yerushalmi doesn't learn that way. Then Yerushalmi says, Rabbi Shina says, you're right. Theoretically, you could put it up again. Knat's contra Rabbi Lezer shloasa sukkah samir v'regal. He should have made it for Yontif properly, and since he doesn't, we give him a fine. Now the Bible, in fact, distinguishes. It says a sukkah which was built before Yontif, Rabbi Lezer allows you to rebuild if it fell down on Yontif. But a sukkah which was not built before Yontif, you can't build in the middle of Yontif. The Yerushalmi holds you can build a sukkah no matter what. Just a gzeira that you shouldn't build it unless you come to build it in a prohibited fashion. Okay?
We're talking about regular Yontif, not Chol HaMoed.
I'm talking about Chol HaMoed. Yeah. It's Chol HaMoed. Mechaber shitas Rabbi Lezer. We have a contradiction of Rabbi Lezer. Taman omer yidal tzu eschayv adam lechol v'sum mitzukah. Here, in the Mishnah, at the beginning of the Mishnah, he says you have to eat 40 meals. And because at the end of the Mishnah, you say, singing a different tune. He's saying that you can make up the first night on the last night. Now, if each one is a separate chiyuv, so how can you possibly make up the first one and the last one? It doesn't make any sense, right? So it says the Gemara, Amar Mitzvah Hushva. Now there are a whole bunch of Yerushalmi, a difference of opinion here. Both the Karman and Pnei Moshe say that the Rabbi Lezer agreed in terms of the mitzvah that in other words he could see the point. Right? Hushva means he came to Shivayon, he came to equality with them, he could see the point to them. That's Karman and Pnei Moshe's shot. The Taisus are Gores Chashuva, Mitzvah Chashuva, and they say that the pshat is that Rabbi Lezer doesn't hold you really have to eat 40 meals in the sukkah. He holds it's a nice thing, it's a chashuva thing, but not actually has to be done. The two Yerushalmi is Gores Yeshiva. Rabbi Yechon, the Yeshiva Ushva, which is a cute chap. He says you're not supposed to eat 14 meals. You're not supposed to eat any meal in the sukkah except for the first night. What it means is sit in the sukkah, right? If you have a meal, go to the sukkah to eat it. So that's what they're saying. The Rabbi Lezer said, really 14 meals is a misnomer. That's assuming he eats all 14 meals of the Yontif, right? Really, whatever he eats, he has to eat in the sukkah. So that's why he has Takash Shlama, that which he missed the first night can be matching the last night, because it's not that each night has its own chiyuv, rather on the contrary, this way he can make it up elsewise. In fact, the Bavli says something similar. The Bavli says that what if somebody asks Rabbi Lezer, how do I keep 14 meals a day in the sukkah, 14 meals over sukkahs in the sukkah? So he said, listen, after you finish your regular meal, have some extra dessert. So you see there that Rabbi Lezer's shita is not that you really need 14 meals. It means you have to sit in the sukkah continuously. You have to make a significant stay in the sukkah for all 14 days. Okay? So at the end there's yet another girsa, the girsa of the Shari Eretz. So it says Hamrachel the mitzvah hushva with the bays instead of the two vavs. And he's saying that which Rabbi Tarfon said that 14 meals one she in the sukkah. No, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Lezer. That Rabbi says 14 meals in the sukkah. He was just responding to what the mitzvah is, but not that that's the primary component and requirement. Okay, Misha Rosh of Ruba B'Sukkah. Some of the head and majority of his torso was in the sukkah. B'Shulchan B'Sukkah and his table is inside his house. B'Shamai Postim B'Shamai says it's possible. B'Sil Machshir B'Sil says it's kosher. On B'Sil B'Shamai said to B'Shamai, how can this be? Ma'aser Shochu Ziknei B'Sil B'Shamai. Once our elders and your elders went. L'Vakos Rabbi Yochanan ben HaChorani. There's the Yocham and Achronim Matzu Shirosha Veruba Sukkah. And down the head and majority of the sukkah body were in the sukkah. And Shulchano and his table, the whole body was inside the house. So we see here that it's permissible. Amalei Beisham and Shabbat said, Bisham Ra'ayef, and they want to pay a proof. Ha! They told the guy, and they told him, but good. If you sat that way, you never fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah, because you have to have the table in the sukkah. Okay, lo sof davar shulchano. Now, say not your entire table. Filu Kadei Shulchan, the shiur of a Shulchan, meaning a tefach by tefach has to be in the table. That has to be in the sukkah, right? It's actually tefach by 7 tefachim, because it has, instead of 6 by 6 would be the shiur of an individual in the majority of his torso, the shiur of a sukkah is 7 by 7. So all that additional perimeter is in order to hold the glimmerings of a table. Okay? Rabbi ben Pasi, Rabbi ben Nagre, Abu Yasmin, they said, was sitting. They said, now we're just talking about general the methodology of Psak of Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel or vice versa. It says that originally they said that if Truma, which is Tameh, falls into Truma, which is Tahar, that Beis Shammai said that's it. Beis Hillel said, you know what? No, it falls into 100, right? So it's 101. So the Truma Tmei becomes no longer Tameh, at least for halachic reasons, and for pure halachic reasons, and then you can eat the whole mixture. Actually, we throw out one, but theoretically, you eat the whole mixture, right? The other opinion holds, of course, that what's the other opinion? Beis Shammai. Shammai holds that you can't. You can't. There's no such thing as taking off the din of tumah. Okay, and then it says in that mission it says achar shahodu. After they can see the point, they changed, and they said that, you know what, we'll change our minds. It works. Or it doesn't work, as the case may be. Because the question is, who conceded to whom? Right? Who conceded to whom? Mi odol and me. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. So they said, Neitzeh chutz minil mod. Let's go out and find out. The Nafkin, and they went out, B'Shalman, Rabbi Chizkiah, and Rabbi Achim, Sher, Yehuda ben Levi, saying, Lo matzonu shodu Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, el b'dover zeh b'uvad. We never found that Beis Shammai who conceded Beis Hillel except in this matter, so we see that they help Beis Shammai concede to Beis Hillel. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Rabbi Aviyah said, Mastiso Amar Kei. So it seems to be an explicit brayso that or Mishnah here, that they conceded the point to Rabbanan. Why? Because it says, Hamar mikli l'kli. It's word from one vessel to another vessel. The Nagatfu Yom, the Kiluach, and so on, he just went to the mikvah, but still hasn't had Harev Shemesh. Touches the flow. Im Yesh Bo, if it's got enough, more flow left, Yalab Echem Meir should cancel by 1 in 100, like is always done. So V'in Tamar Beis Hillel Ben B'Holu Beis Shammai, because Beis Hillel conceded Beis Shammai, Shlo Taleh, that it's that you know that you can't do that, right? 60 is not enough, so you need 101. Even then, it might not be sufficient. Matar Tale, who said here you can get out of the situation. Lo Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. It's not Beis Hillel, not Beis Shammai. So it must be Beis Hillel says you can get out of the situation for a lot less. Ravida said, no, my Beis Hillel shano osa. Ach lo dolem Beis Shammai. Lo dolem li Beis Shammai, actually. Says more, no, maybe it means Beis Hillel consider Beis Shammai. We find a Bryce which says that by full yom you can take away full yom by 1 in 100. Maybe that's Beis Hillel before they conceded the point. After they conceded the point, they no longer say that. Rabbi Yossi the Mishnah itself indicates Achar Shoda, the Beis Hillel conceded to the Beis Shammai conceded Beis Hillel. What does it say? It says, it says once it's canceled, 1 in 100, so you take out 1 and you burn that 1 and you say that was the one. Hey! Rabbi Lezer is saying that you could take out 100 because it canceled. Guess what school of thought Rabbi Lezer was from? Who remembers? Beis Shammai. So we see very good guess. So it wasn't a guess. So we see Beis Shammai holds that Beis Shammai was chayzerbo, right? Because this Beis Shammai, Rabbi Lezer Lav Shamuti wasn't in front of Beis Shammai. So we see Beis Shammai can see the Beis Hillel. Rabbi Chida said, Masnisa Amar Kate, the brisa now. This time it's a brisa that says that Lacha Shodu Elu Ta'aleh. It says after they were conceded that the one to the other, so we Beis Shammai to Beis Hillel in this case. So we say that you can cancel 1 in 100. Beis Shammai Misaukin Loan. Vina Modin Lane. So do we have a kasha? That Beis Shammai says, although it's not brought down here, Beis Shammai, it's Pnei Moshe brings it down. Beis Shammai said to Beis Hillel, he said, look, Chulin, just a second. Yeah, Beis Shammai said this. Beis Shammai said, listen, Beis Hillel, Chulin fruit can be a vata truma fruit because it's a clash. So the truma is bata and the chulin, right? Because they're so antithetical that they clash. They're a tremendous paradox. So something's got to win, and whatever that thing wins, the bulldozer steam shovels through. So therefore, they're saying it's got to be that you can take the chulin and cancel to the truma. But truma tahora cancel. Excuse me, truma tahora cancel truma tmei. Who says that happens? First of all, tuma and tara is not the same thing like osir mutter. Secondly, the truma itself is so similar. It's not a clash. So how do you know that the truma Torah is mevatel the truma tmeya? That was Beis Shammai's question on Beis Hillel. She's taka good kasha. So why did Beis Shammai respond? It's such a good tie-in on their part. Why did they concede the point? Says Gemara. You know why they concede the point? Because Beis Hillel had a better retort than Beis Shammai. They said, "Kador the Tan Rabbi Yishai." That which Rabbi Yishai said, "My Torah, Truma Torah vis-a-vis Truma Tmeya." I'm sorry, Truma Torah. Shibavon Misa Eitzel Zarim. Truma Torah is much more significant than Truma Tmeya. Truma Torah vis-a-vis a Zar, if he eats it, he's Chayav Misa. Yet nonetheless, the Chulin cancels it, right? Harei Oila. Tmeya vis-a-vis Torah, who's going to eat this whole mixture, even after it's bought only a Kohen? And if a Kohen eats Truma Tmeya outright, what does he do? It's not Kefer Lach. He just transgressed the mitzvah saseh, to eat it holy, not to eat it profane. So he says, again, my Tershi Bavon Misla, it's a Zorim where you try to negate a capital punishment, that really works. Tmeya should be at say it's so Kohanim. Tmeya, which is only not say if a Kohen eats it, low kosher Cain, it certainly is cancelled out, and that was Beis Hillel's retort to Beis Shammai, and that's why Beis Shammai could see the point. Why is Beis Hillel zoich? They're always passing like Beis Hillel. I'm Ravina Ben Pazi. Like that, Elishayu rowing Beitire Beis Shammai chozim bohem. The case is he brings down here the Moshe case where Beis Hillel in deference to Beis Shammai reneged on their own approach, their own halacha. Hey, Rabbi Simon, but Bar Zavta, Rabbi Simon is a very interesting point. It's a historical thing. He says, "Hey, Rabbi Simon Bar Zavta, Rabbi Simon." Oh no, Mar. Who says that Beis Hillel always said over Beis Shammai words before their own? Oh no, Mar. Tani Chamsun. Maybe the Tana of the Mishnah saw the words Savun Minon, Savun Minin, Vakdimun, and he saw he took the words of Beis Hillel and he put them first. In other words, maybe it wasn't. I'm sorry, Shammai put them first. I'm sorry. In other words, maybe it wasn't Beis Hillel did it out of deference. The Bryce, the author of the Mishnah, did it out of deference. Why? Because he saw Savun Minon. I misread that line. Cham Savun Minon. He saw that they were older. Beis Shammai were the older people, so therefore he took them, put them first. For Atani, they're bringing you a proof. That's the author of the Mishnah who did this, because it says in our Mishnah, "Ma'aser shol chizikne Beis Shammai v'zikne Beis Hillel v'akers Rabbi Yochanan and Choranis." It says the elder Beis Shammai, the elder Beis Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan and Choranis, which one of the proofs that Beis Hillel acted differentially towards Beis Shammai. No! If it's talking about what they actually said, that Beis Hillel always put Beis Shammai's words ahead of their own, so Nomar, so let's say, quoted as Beis Hillel probably said it then, which would have been that Beis Hillel said, our elders, or our forefathers, vis-a-vis your forefathers, right? Happens to be the other way around should be though. Should be your forefathers vis-a-vis our forefathers. In other words, if this actual Korah discussion Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, when Beis Hillel discussed Beis Shammai, they didn't say Beis Shammai says this and Beis Hillel says this. It would have said you and us, right? So were this to be a direct quote of what Beis Hillel said, it would have said you and us. It doesn't say you and us. It says Zikne Beis Hillel Zikne Beis Shammai. So it must be the Mishnah's paraphrasing. So if we find that Beis Shammai comes before Beis Hillel in the Mishnah, it's not a proof that Beis Hillel were modest and humble. They might have been modest and humble anyway. But that's not the proof because the author of the Mishnah is putting Beis Shammai first. Now, amazing thing, here we pass the Beis Shammai in our Mishnah. Amr Zera Vuna B'Shem Rabba look at Beis Shammai. Why? Because it seems like Beis Hillel was made on it. It seems like they accepted the Svara. Rabbi Yemen Rav Shua Bar Rav Yitzchak Shem Rav said, "Mimash Sukkah Beis Shammai Beis Hillel." Since Beis Shammai ended the argument over Beis Hillel, in other words, they got in the last word. Allah must be like them. Okay, let's just go for the end of the parak. Women, slaves, and children are exempt from the sukkah. A child who no longer needs his mother, she's around 6 years old. Shulchan Aruch brings down. So Chai B'Sukkah needs sukkah because of chinuch. The daughter-in-law of the old man Shammai gave birth. It was his grandson. He took up the roof over her bed. The Sigei puts chak over the bed for the child. Ezu cotton, what's a cotton who still requires his mother? He needs his wife to wipe him after he tends his needs. Anybody wakes up from his sleep, it says, Mommy. Rabbi said, once he's over 6, is Chai B'Sukkah, and it's a typo, it should be, if his mother puts an Erev for him, an Erev Tchumi, he's not Yotze with it. Because until 6, Dam Das is that he's connected to his mother. But above 6, he might be connected to his father, might be connected to some other family member, so he doesn't default to his mother's Erev. Okay? Kol Shiva Yomim, 7 days of Sukkot. I saw them a Sukkah, a man makes a Sukkah's permanent abode. If it's based on right, his house is temporary abode. Yerushalmi, when it starts raining, Emosai Mutal Fanos. But when you leave the sukkah, Mishatisrach HaMikveh, once the porridge goes bad. Moshe Ma'adar they draw an analogy here. What's it like? A slave who comes to pour a cup for his master, and the master throws it back on his face. That's the rain. Hashem is kicking us out of the sukkah. See if it says, but sukkah's teishvu, vein teishvu taduru. It says in sukkah's dwell means live. Kamada Atomar, like it says, V'yurashtem, also by the land of Israel, it says, you should inherit it, V'yushavtem bo, and dwell in it. So it's interesting that there's a parallel draw between Sukkot and Eretz Yisrael here. And of course, it's true because Sukkot and Eretz Yisrael mitzvahs which envelop an individual. But I was really thinking what's significant here is that it says, the Yerushalmi is bringing proof from a pasuk about Yishuv Eretz Yisrael that the sin of Sukkah, Yishuv Sukkah is the same thing. And obviously you don't go and conquer your Sukkah. Unless you're Don Quixote. You don't go and conquer your Sukkah. So if you don't go and conquer your Sukkah, that means that what's defined as Yishuv Sukkah, just sitting there. So too you would fulfill them, it seems to you would fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, even if you didn't conquer it, if you just sat there. If you bought land or whatever the case may be, you don't actually have to make a conquest, because the parallel being drawn between Teshuvah of Sukkah and V'yishtem V'yishavtem Ba, which is by Eretz Yisrael, which I think we pass Halacha L'Maaseh. One fulfills Yishuv Eretz Yisrael even if one doesn't actually wage a war, but rather just lives there. Okay?
Living there requires waging a war.
Not the Haredim.
No.
Okay, they're not waging wars.
The Arabs.
The Arabs, well, they don't have the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. But amen. Yorduk Shamim. The rain comes down, maybe it's like Mutu Faras when you take it. Stuff, low soft over Shetisrach. It's not you have to sit there with your bowl of cereal and say, okay, is it ruined or is it not ruined yet, right? That, you don't have to do it. Ela Kedei Shetisrach, right? I feel Kedei Shetisrach, the amount of whether you'd have a porridge, what it would take to ruin it.
What about the first night?
No, first night, the Gemara doesn't go into it here. I don't remember it goes even the Bavli either into it explicitly. That we were out to Drosh of Tesvav Tesvav. Right, because of the Drosh of Tesvav Tesvav. But I don't think anybody speaks about it explicitly to the poskim. Okay? Yeah, it doesn't rain. It's very rare. Loso Tavring Mikos Greece, it's not, also doesn't have to be a porridge of beans. Feel Mikos should call a porridge of anything, even Quaker oats. Tonic, it's just like you leave Sukkah because of rain. If it's too hot, you can leave. And if there are too many bees, you can leave too. That's what it says. Rangamil Nichas says here, mosquitoes, same idea. Rangamil Nichas v'yetze kol laila. It's interesting in Chumrah. Rabbi Gamliel, he had to leave once because of rain, but he went out again when it stopped raining. Came back in again when it started raining, went back out again when it started raining. So Rabbi Lezer Nichas v'yetze kol laila. Chad mean Talmid mean the Rabbi Mora. Once the Rabbi Mora, Hori l'chad mean krived in the Sia. He told one of the relatives of the Nasi, Yotza, if you leave in the middle of the night, so you don't have to come back, which is in fact the way the Bavli paskins. However, the Yerushalmi doesn't. Lo Shmir on Gamliel, Lo Shmir didn't hear the student, and Gamliel Nichnas V'yot say call light, and Gamliel would go in and out at night, and Blezen Nichnas V'yot call light, didn't hear it either, and that's the way, in fact, the Yerushalmi holds that in the middle of the night, if it stops raining and you notice it, of course, then you have to go back to your sukkah to sit there.
Was this when Rabbi Lezer was still a Talmud of Rav Gamliel, or after he became? I
don't know. I don't think it makes a difference. I think the Yerushalmi is requiring there's no the Yerushalmi means there's no machlokas or machlokas. This would be universal. Everybody knows you have to go back in. Okay, it means a big chumrah. Okay, that's all, folks.